Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Sukkah. We are up to Perek He Mishnah Vav. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam beGan Eden, Amen, and Avdi ben Chaim L'Chaim, for the Refuah Shlema, Bacha bat Esther, and Daniel Shom ben Rosa, Betoch Shah Chulei Israel. The Kohanim were divided into 24 Mishmarot groups, each of which served in the temple 1 week at a time, as the Mishnah says, Masechet Tanit, chapter 4, Mishnah 2. During its week, a Mishmar, a group, had the exclusive rights to bring all the offerings, and they could prevent any other Kohen from participating in the service. On the festivals, however, all the 24 Mishmarot had equal rights in the offerings that were brought specifically because of the festival, such as the Musaf offerings. The Mishnah explains how the Musaf offerings of Sukkot were divided among the Mishmarot. On the first day of Sukkot, the Musaf offering consisted of 4 types of animals: bulls, rams, goats, and lambs. The number of rams, goats, and lambs remained the same on every day throughout Sukkot: 2 rams, 1 goat, 14 lambs. But the number of bulls was reduced by 1 each day. There were 13 bulls on the first day, 12 on the second day, 11 on the third, and so on, until the 7th day when only 7 bulls were offered. On most days of the festival, the total number of animals exceeded the number of Mishmarot, in which case some of the Mishmarot that offered a lamb were entitled to offer a second lamb. However, a group that offered a bull, ram, or goat was not allowed a second animal of any type. As the festival progressed and the number of bulls decreased, fewer Mishmarot offered bulls and more of them offered lambs. And as the number of Mishmarot that offered lamb increased, the number that offered 2 lambs decreased. The Mishnah begins, Yom Tov Arishon Shel Chag, Hayu Sham 13 parim ve'elim shnayim v'seir echad. On the first day of the festival, there were 13 bulls, 2 rams, and 1 goat for the Musaf offering. This is a total of 16 animals, 1 for each of 16 Mishmarot. Nishtayru Sham 14 kvasim li8 Mishmarot. 14 lambs were left over for the other 8 Mishmarot. B'yom Rishon Shisha makrivin shnayim v'ashar echad. Therefore, on the first day, B'yom Rishon Shisha makrivin, 6 Mishmarot offered shnayim, 2 lambs each, so 12 lambs. V'ashar echad, and the other 2 Mishmarot offered 1 lamb each, so 2 lambs. On the second day, the number of bulls was 12. Therefore, only 12 Mishmarot offered bulls. Another 3 brought the 2 rams and 1 goat. This left 9 to offer the 14 lambs. Basheni, on the second day, Chamisha makrivin, 5 of the 9 remaining Mishmarot offered shnayim, 2 lambs each, so 10 lambs, v'ashar echad, and the other 4 offered 1 lamb each, so 4 lambs. On the third day, the number of bulls was 11, therefore 11 Mishmarot offered bulls. Another 3 brought the 2 rams and 1 goat. This left 10 to offer the 14 lambs. Bashlishi, on the third day, 4 of the 10 remaining Mishmarot makrivin, they offered shnayim, 2 lambs each, so 8 lambs. V'ashar echad, and the other 6 offered 1 lamb each, so 6 lambs. On the 4th day, the number of bulls was reduced to 10. Therefore, 10 Mishmarot offered bulls. Another 3 brought the 2 rams and 1 goat. This left 11 to offer the 14 lambs. Barivi'i, on the 4th day, 3 makrivin, 3 of the remaining 11 Mishmarot offered shnayim, 2 lambs each, so 6 lambs. V'ashar echad, and the other 8 offered 1 lamb each, so 8 lambs. On the 5th day, the number of bulls was 9. Therefore, 9 Mishmarot offered bulls. Another 3 brought the 2 rams and 1 goat. This left 12 to offer the 14 lambs. B'chamishi, on the 5th day, shnayim makrivin, 2 of the remaining 12 Mishmarot offered shnayim, 2 lambs each, so 4 lambs. V'ashar echad, and the other 10 offered 1 lamb each, so 10 lambs. On the 6th day, the number of bulls was 8. Therefore, 8 Mishmarot offered bulls. Another 3 brought the 2 rams and 1 goat. This left 13 to offer the 14 lambs. Bashishi, on the 6th day, Echad makriv, 1 of the remaining 30 Mishmarot offered shnayim, 2 lambs. V'ashar echad, and the other 12 offered 1 lamb each, so 12 lambs. On the 7th day, the number of bulls was 7. Therefore, 7 Mishmarot offered bulls. Another 3 brought the 2 rams and 1 goat. This left 14 to offer the 14 lambs. B'shvi, on the 7th day, Kulan Shavin, all the remaining Mishmarot were equal, meaning each of the remaining 40 Mishmarot offered 1 lamb each. No Mishmar offered 2. On Shmini Atzeret, the Musaf offering was entirely different. It consisted of only 10 animals, 1 bull, 1 ram, 1 goat, and 7 lambs, which is fewer than the number of Mishmarot. Bashmini, on the 8th day, Shmini Atzeret, Chazru lefayes keberegalim. They went back to the method of casting lots to determine which mishmar offered an animal, as they did on the other festivals, Pesach and Shavuot. On Pesach and Shavuot, the Rav explains the number of animals in the Musaf offering was 11, so lots were used to determine which 11 of the 24 mishmarot would offer them. The method of casting lots is described in Yoma Mishnah, chapter 2, Mishnah 1. The Mishnah cites a rule about dividing the bulls of the Musaf offerings on Sukkot. Amru, the Kohanim agreed among themselves and said, Mi shekriv parim hayom lo ekriv l'machar. Any mishmar that offered one of the bulls today shall not offer a bull tomorrow. Ela chozrin chalila. Instead, we take turns in rotation. Those who already offered bulls had to wait until after all the other mishmarot offered bulls, and then the sequence began again. The 24 mishmarot took turns to offer bulls in a particular sequence. Therefore, the bulls were allocated as follows. The first day, 13 bulls, mishmarot 1 through 13. Second day, 12 bulls, mishmarot 14 to 24, and mishmar 1. Third day, 11 bulls, mishmarot 2 to 12. Fourth day, 10 bulls, mishmarot 13 to 22. Fifth day, 9 bulls, mishmarot 23 to 24 and 1 and 7. Sixth day, 8 bulls, mishmarot 8 and 15. And seventh day, 7 bulls, mishmarot 16 to 22. As can be seen, mishmar 1 offered a bull on both the first and second days. Since the number of bulls on the second day was 12, whereas the number of mishmarot that had not yet offered a bull was only 11, there was no option but to let mishmar 1 bring a bull on the second day as well. And that is then the Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Zayin continues, having discussed the right of the mishmarot to perform the sacrificial services of offerings brought on Sukkot, the Mishnah discusses their right to receive portions of the offerings brought on Sukkot, as well as the offerings of Pesach and Shavuot. בשלושה פרקים בשנה היו כל המשמרות שוות בהימורי הרגלים. 3 times a year, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, all the 24 mishmarot were equally entitled to receive portions of the offerings that the Torah says must be brought on festivals. Uvchiluk lechem hapanim, and when the festival fell on Shabbat, they were equally entitled to portions of the lechem hapanim, the panim bread, which was distributed every Shabbat. Every Shabbat, 12 specially shaped loaves of bread, lechem hapanim, were put on the temple, on the table, the shulchan in the temple. As the Torah describes in Sefer Vayikra, chapter 24, pasuk 8, they remained there until the next Shabbat, when they were removed and placed with the next 12 loaves. After being removed, the loaves were divided between 2 mishmarot, the incoming mishmar and the outgoing one. However, on the Shabbat of a festival, Yom Tov or Chol Moed, they were divided equally among, Shabbat of Yom Tov or Shabbat of a festival, which is Yom Tov or Chol Moed, they were divided equally among all the 24 mishmarot. The general rule is that only the offerings related to the festival were divided among the 24 mishmarot, while all the other offerings were divided among the mishmar or 2 mishmarot scheduled to serve in the temple that week. Nevertheless, the Gemara derives from verses in the Torah that the lechem hapanim, the panim bread, is an exception to this rule. Although the lechem hapanim was not related to the festival, it was eaten every Shabbat, it was divided on the Shabbat of a festival among all the mishmarot, just like the festival offerings. On Shavuot, an offering of bread called the shtei alechem, the 2 loaves, was brought. Therefore, when Shavuot fell on Shabbat, the Kohanim received 2 portions of bread, one from the Shtei Alechem because it was Shavuot, and one from the Lechem HaPanim because it was Shabbat. The Mishnah says, Ba'atzeret, on a Shavuot that fell on Shabbat, Umrim lo, when they gave each Kohen his share of the Lechem HaPanim, which was matzah, they said to him, Helach matzah, here is a matzah for you. And when they gave him his share of the Shtei Alechem, which was Hametz, they said to him, Helach Hametz, here is Hametz for you. This was their way of telling each Kohen that they were giving him his portions of both offerings, and not 2 portions of the same offering. When the lechem hapanim and the shtei lechem were distributed, if a Kohen would take 2 shares of one offering instead of a single share of each, he would be giving away his portion of one in exchange for a second portion of the other. This is prohibited because the Torah says that a Kohen may not exchange his portion of one offering for another Kohen's portion in a different offering. As the Torah says in Sefer Vayikra, chapter 7, pasuk 10, and the Gemara Kiddushin, page 53a. In case a Kohen might be worried that he was unknowingly participating in such an exchange, they told each Kohen that he was receiving only his rightful portion of the Shtei Alechem and his rightful portion of the Lechem HaPanim, and not 2 portions of the same item. Now the 24 mishmarot had equal rights in the offerings that were brought because of the festival. Offerings that would have been brought in any event, the daily tamid, were offered and eaten only by the mishmar scheduled to serve that week. Mishmar shezmano kavua hu makriv tamidin nedarim undavot ushar korbanot tzibur. The mishmar scheduled to serve that week offered the daily tamid offerings, the vow offerings, and voluntary offerings that people chose to bring that week, and other public offerings that were not related to the festival. Now the commentaries explain there are 2 main methods by which a person can obligate himself to bring an offering. A, he says, I obligate myself to bring an offering, in which case he commits himself to designate an animal later and then brings it to the temple. The offering brought to fulfill this type of commitment is called a neder, a vow offering. And B, he indicates a particular animal and says, this is an offering. With this very statement, he designates the animal that he intends to offer. All that remains for him to do is to bring it to the temple. This type of offering is called a nedava, a voluntary offering. So the mishmar scheduled to serve that week would offer the daily tamid offerings, the vow offerings, voluntary offerings, and other public offerings that were not related to the festival. These public offerings include A, par helem davar shel tzibur, the bull for the mistaken transgression of a community. If the Sanhedrin mistakenly ruled that an act punishable by karet is permitted, and most of the people relying on the court's decision committed that act, a bull is brought as a hatat offering on their behalf, as the Torah says in Sefer Vayikra, chapter 4, Psukim 13 to 21. And B, sir avodah zarah, the he-goat of idol worship. If the act in question was one of idol worship, a bull is brought as an olah offering and a he-goat as a hatat offering, as the Torah says in Sefer Bamidbar, chapter 15, Psukim 22 through 26. Another public offering brought on a festival but unrelated to the festival is the Musaf offering of Shabbat. Umakriv et hakol, and it offered all the other offerings that were not related to the festival. With these words, the Mishnah includes ketz hamizbech, literally dessert for the altar. When no offerings were being burned on the altar, olah offerings were purchased with public money. Olah offerings that were purchased with public money were burned there, so that the altar would not be inactive. Now, the Mishnah returns to discuss the distribution of the lechem hapanim. It taught above that when Shavuot or other festival fell on Shabbat, all the mishmarot shared the lechem hapanim equally. Here the Mishnah extends this law to a Shabbat that came out immediately before or after a festival. Yom Tov samuch leShabbat ben milefanea ben milacharea. If a Yom Tov fell next to Shabbat, either Friday or Saturday, meaning the festival ended on a Friday or started on a Saturday, hayu kol hamishmarot shavot bechiluk lechem hapanim. All the mishmarot were equally entitled to portions of the lechem hapanim of that Shabbat, even though that Shabbat was not part of the festival. If a festival began on a Sunday, all the Kohanim wanted to be in the temple for the festival or at Yerushalayim before Shabbat because they cannot travel on Shabbat. For the same reason, if a festival ended on a Friday, they stayed until Shabbat was over. In either case, the rabbis established that all the Kohanim in the temple shed the lechem hapanim equally, just as they do on a Shabbat that falls during the festival. And that is Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen.